Coming up tonight on VCU InSight.
A scholarship program gives ex-convicts a chance for a higher education.
An expansion is on its way to give the homeless a better place to live.
And a new trend in dieting may not be as good as you might think.
All this and more.
VCU InSight starts right now.
From the Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture at Virginia Commonwealth University, named Best Student Newscast in the Mid-Atlantic, this is VCU InSight.
Good evening and welcome to VCU InSight. I'm Jacqueline Causey.
And I'm Derek Marion. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news tonight, a new chapter for VCU. The university is offering scholarships to some former Richmond inmates. Paying for Richmond prisoners to go to classes has never been done at VCU. But as Insight's Amaya Ray reports, it's renewing dreams for some.
Christian Brackett is a former jail inmate that receives a college education. VCU's Open Mind program allows inmates to take college courses while at the Richmond City Justice Center. He served 8 months in jail for larceny. Now at 30 years old, he's been given a second chance at a college education, which he says he thought would never happen.
That thought never crossed my mind until it became a reality in the class.
Brackett is one of 3 former inmates that were picked to receive the John Patrick Dooley Scholarship.
VCU Open Minds will pay for their books, fees, and tuition up to $2,000 as long as it is spent by spring 2016. These former prisoners will be here on VCU's campus taking classes with traditional students in the fall.
Open Minds co-director David Coogan says he is incredibly proud to tap into another side of the inmates.
People come to the question of jail or prison or prisoners with all kinds of preconceptions about what they are or what the place is.
Brackett says this scholarship has done more for him than just a free education.
It's helped my self-determination and self-esteem. It really motivated me because I was convinced that I was just going to give up on the idea of getting a college degree.
Thanks to this scholarship, he doesn't have to give up on that idea. For VCU InSight, I'm Amaya Ray.
Only former inmates charged with low-risk crimes are eligible for these awards. Prisoners charged with rape, murder, or other high-risk crimes cannot be awarded. Open Mind says it does plan to continue the courses held at the Richmond City Jail and award the campus scholarships every year.
Cloudy skies and rain weren't enough to keep Richmonders from showing off their green side. The annual St. Patrick's Day Festival, Shamrock the Block, was back on the boulevard for its second year. Hosting over 40 food vendors and live music, the festival offered its guests wine and beer tasting. All proceeds from the festival benefit Project Local, a Richmond-based nonprofit organization. Event organizers said it drew more than 10,000 people, despite the rainy weather. Even though this year's event drew a heavy crowd, it still lacked the luck of the Irish. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the main stage collapsed during the live performance of the band Tiger Man Whoa. Some members of the band managed to get out before it happened, while others were trapped inside and required assistance. Thankfully, nobody was injured, and after moving to a nearby tent, the band kept on playing. After all, the show must go on.
Public schools in the Richmond area are starting to show their age. At the beginning of the 2014 school year, the Richmond School Board was given a long list of expensive but necessary repairs to local schools, although many of these have not been addressed because of a lack of funding. InSight's Sabrina Fuller is in the newsroom to tell us more. Good evening, Sabrina.
Good evening, Derek. Elkhart Middle School is the most recent in the community to shut its doors. A leaky steam pipe underneath the school has caused a mold problem that has led to the school that will take millions of dollars to fix. Students and staff at Elkhart were moved to Clark Springs Elementary School near the end of February. Over the span of about a week, the entire school was packed up and relocated 9 miles away from their old building. Clark Springs Elementary is only a temporary solution to an ongoing problem. The school is too small to house all of the classes that Elkhart offers. Some classes are even being held in a trailer behind the school. Elkhart Principal Eric Jones says the rapid move was the best choice to keep students safe. Jones says that the extent of the mold issue at Elkhart came as a surprise.
No, it didn't seem that bad then.
But it was bad. Spots of mold were present on ceiling tiles and throughout the building. Students and faculty complained of breathing difficulties before the problem was ever addressed. 7th grader Jada Crowley says she was a fan of the old Elkhart, but she sees the reason for the changes.
I guess so, because they've known it for a while and never told us, and I have been getting headaches lately, so.
Clark Springs is not Elkhart's official permanent home. Principal Jones says that right now the elementary school is a short-term solution.
But long-term, it's evident that if Elkhart is going to continue to exist, that a new building would have to be built. And then
while school members wait to hear what will happen to Elkhart, some parents in the community have already taken action. Several parents have hired an attorney to file a Freedom of Information request in order to find out how long RPS administration has known about the mold. Back to you, Derek.
Thank you, Sabrina. For some people, civil rights is an historic topic they learned about in school. But for a former VCU professor, it is a major component of his life and even a drive for the career choice he has made. He has an interesting background, having worked with Malcolm X in the civil rights movement in the 60s. InSight's Sierra Wega is in the studio to tell us more.
I'm here with Peter Bailey, former VCU adjunct professor, author, and civil rights activist. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So I know we recently just commemorated the 50th anniversary of the Selma March, so civil rights is on everyone's mind. And I know you worked personally with Malcolm X, so just tell me a little bit about that. When did you meet him?
Well, I met him in early 1964, but the first time I heard him speak was in the summer of 1962 when I moved to Harlem. I moved to Harlem like on a Friday night, and that Saturday morning, instead of unpacking, my roommate and I decided to walk down Lenox Avenue. And we got down to 116th Street and Lenox, and we saw a crowd gathering. And when we asked what was going on, they said that Malcolm X was going to be speaking. Wow. Now at that time, I'd vaguely heard of him. And of course, I heard all the horror stories. And so we said, let's see what he has to say. Yeah. So he spoke for 3 hours. And by the time those 3 hours were up, you know, I was a Malcolmite. I mean, I had never heard anyone speak with such a clarity and authority and vision about race in this country. Yeah. And though I was not going to become a member of the Nation of Islam, wherever he spoke, from then on, wherever he spoke in the New York City metropolitan area, I was there. Yeah. And then after he left the Nation of Islam in late 1963, and they formed a new organization, I became a founding member of that organization.
Okay, so we actually have some clips of you commemorating the 48th anniversary of him. And I know recently, a couple weeks ago, you were on CNN doing the 50th anniversary of the murder of Malcolm X. So I guess, like, how does it feel just being able to speak on his behalf? And I guess what were some of the things you were talking about?
Well, I really regard it as an honor and really an obligation to speak about him as much as I can to people, because there was such an attempt to demonize him. And so being that I'm in a position where as a communicator and a journalist and writer, I can help to deal with that demonization. Yeah. And so I take every opportunity that I can to speak to people, to talk about the man, you know, that I met and that I knew and that whose positions that I believed in.
Yeah, I know he actually inspired you to be a journalist. Like how did, I guess, what was his inspiration?
Most definitely. When I was in college at Howard University, I was really studying to be a political scientist with the idea of teaching. And I did my first activism in the movement at Howard. But I never even dreamed of being a journalist. You know, it was nothing. I didn't work on a newspaper in high school or college. And but then when I worked with Brother Malcolm and we had those meetings forming the Organization of Afro-American Unity, people were volunteering to do different things. You know, the youth committee, the education committee, the economics committee, the political committee, but nobody volunteered to do the newsletter. So I don't know why I did it, but I said, okay, I'll do the newsletter. And I became editor of the newsletter. And my first article that I ever wrote was about the killing of young James Powell by the policeman in New York that set off the Harlem Uprising in 1964. I was the first. I beat all the major news media over to the area of Manhattan where the shooting occurred. Yeah. because someone called me and told me about it, so I was over there. And my first article that I ever wrote was an article in the newsletter about that, about the killing of young Powell.
Well, that's so cool, and it's so great to see, I guess, you be so inspired by him and moving on with your life. But I've been speaking with Peter Bailey, former VCU adjunct professor, author, and civil rights activist. Thank you for joining us and telling us a little bit about you.
An NFL great came to Richmond to talk about his battle with cancer. NFL Hall of Famer and colon cancer survivor Willie Lanier shared tips on the importance of early detection. Doctors caught his cancer at stage 1. Having beaten the disease himself, he told personal stories about what he went through, from his surgery to his recovery. The seminar was sponsored by the Retreat Doctors Hospital of Virginia. In addition to Lanier, 2 doctors also spoke about the latest treatments and how to help prevent colon cancer. Doctors suggest that anyone with a family history or over the age of 50 should get a screening colonoscopy.
A Richmond homeless shelter doesn't have enough room to house all the people in need. That's why a local group is expanding to create new beds for people who don't have one. InSight's Robin Richardson has more on the story.
Meet Daniel. He lives in room 26 of New Clay Street House in Richmond's Carver neighborhood. Daniel did not want to give his last name. He was homeless and suffered a triple bypass and a heart attack before moving into New Clay House.
I'm fighting for my disability. Okay, so that ain't making it any easier. So, but I managed, and I've been here for 4 years. Okay, because of the people who helps us around here.
Those people are Virginia Supportive Housing, a nonprofit organization that offers permanent housing to homeless people in Richmond. New Clay House was the first of its kind back in 1992, but it's not so new anymore. BSH Executive Director Allison Bodanovich says that after 23 years of service, the building is in dire need of an upgrade.
And so we'll be renovating the existing building so that everyone will have new independent units, about 300, so the units will be larger, they'll be more accessible, and they'll have their own full kitchens and bathrooms.
Residents of Clay Street say that these studios not only offer them stabilization, but an opportunity to reclaim their lives. The renovations will cost around $12 million. VSH is planning on expanding the studio apartments to add a bigger kitchenette and a private bathroom. Even though Daniel does not want to give up his room, he has already placed his bid for room 26. For VCU InSight, I'm Robin Richardson.
Renovation starts this summer. The residents of New Clay Street House will temporarily stay at another housing location during the construction. The green juice market is estimated at $100 million a year. It gained popularity from celebrities like Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie. But how safe are they? And are they a good part of your everyday diet? InSight's Casey Young is in the newsroom with more. Good evening, Casey.
Jacqueline, a juice cleanse is when someone only drinks green juices for a certain amount of time. People normally drink them to help with weight loss, and the Richmond community is catching on to this trend.
Erin Powell is the owner of Ginger Juice, a local startup that sells non-processed vegetable and fruit juices. She started selling juice to help her family get more nutrition.
But I started juicing because my son wouldn't eat his vegetables, but he would drink them.
As a day job, Powell works for Snag-a-Job. 4 months ago, she launched Ginger Juice in hopes of spending more time with her family. They now sell up to 7 different flavors. The juices can be used individually or for a cleanse. According to market analysis firm Data Monitor, veggies you can drink are a top 10 seller.
A lot of people have started to look at it, and especially the bottled juice business is growing in popularity because of the convenience.
People normally think juice cleanses are healthy, but there might be a few things that you don't know when you're doing a cleanse.
VCU clinical dietitian Nicholas Fischetti says that juice cleanses are not what they seem.
When you do juice, you miss out on a lot of key nutrients. You miss out on a lot of different essential fatty acids. Your protein intake is probably fairly low. You're missing some vitamins and minerals, and your fiber intake tends to be pretty low as well.
Both Fischetti and Powell think juicing can be a good way to incorporate fruits and vegetables in your diet. Powell hopes to expand her business in the next year. Her mission is to make sure her startup stays local and accessible.
So I really want to give back to this community, so that's another big thing that I hope to gain by owning my own business.
Fischetti recommends that if you go on a juice cleanse, to use a blender instead of a juicer, That way, you get your fiber and other nutrients from that produce. Back to you, Jacqueline.
Thank you, Casey.
March is National Red Cross Month, but what is the organization doing this year to help communities across the country? InSight's Ben Billmeyer sits down with a member of the Virginia Red Cross to find out more.
I'm here with Jonathan McNamara, Director of Donor and Media Relations for the Virginia Red Cross. Mr. McNamara, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So, as you know, March is National Red Cross Month. So, what does that mean for your organization and the Virginia Red Cross, and what kind of awareness it's getting for the community?
Oh, this is a great time for us. We have two priorities this month. For starters, is to celebrate the amazing work of our volunteers and donors. Over 97% of the work that's done from the Red Cross, from responding to a house fire to preparing citizens with health and safety classes, is done by volunteers right here in the community. So we're doing that, but we're also taking an opportunity to help build more resilient and prepared communities. This morning we had at 9:45 a.m. across the state of Virginia, we're doing a tornado drill, and this is just one piece of our efforts to build prepared communities.
Now we have some footage here of some YouTube clips that you guys have, whether it's doing holiday travel tips or preparing families for fire drills, fire escape plans. What kind of stuff are you trying to get accomplished through these YouTube clips?
Well, the Red Cross now, it's not just interviews like this. We're using every tool at our disposal, whether that's Facebook, YouTube, using Twitter. We're trying to come up with creative ways to tell the same story, and the goal of reaching new audiences, whether it's college students, helping them prepare their dorms for severe weather, or like you saw the holiday video where we partnered with our friends at VDOT. Social media is a great platform. It gives us a little bit more flexibility and a way to have fun with some of that old stale information, and that's a great tool for us, and we've been very proud of the work that we've done.
Staying with the idea of social media, you're using social media to help get tips out to the Red Cross, whether it's people involved with fires or natural disasters, whether it was the snow the few weeks ago. How else are you using social media to help get people prepared for natural disasters?
It's now an integral part of everything we do. So we're monitoring social media 24 hours a day for certain keywords. So if there was a severe storm coming to this area, we're looking for people posting about damage, looking for people posting about being afraid of the storm. We have volunteers who are on those channels. We're going to interact with them. We're going to give them safety tips, but we're also going to use that information to dictate our response, to get our vehicles in the right place, to get tools and information to people in as efficient a manner as possible. That's going to save money and hopefully save lives.
What other kind of events do you at the Virginia Red Cross have coming up for the rest of March and in the near future?
Our big push this month being preparedness. We're doing fire canvassing events across the state of Virginia. We have a big one coming up on Saturday the 28th. Where we're working with Richmond Fire Department to go door to door, give people key fire safety information, help them build fire safety plans. And then we're also installing smoke detectors in these homes. And we hope this is going to save lives and build a more resilient Richmond.
And what else do you have for the community at large? Whether it's tips, whether it's advice about how to prepare for any other upcoming events?
Yeah, well, we're doing interviews like this across the state of Virginia to talk to people about the importance of building that preparedness plan. But the second prong of what we're doing Red Cross Month, we're having volunteer celebrations all across Virginia to recognize the extraordinary efforts of volunteers who do that incredible work in our communities. And that's a way to say thank you, but also to recruit new people to our team. So this is an essential element of what we do every day, is finding new people who have a passion for helping in the community. And that's going to be a big focus for all of the Red Cross across not only Virginia, but across the country.
And I'm assuming that social media is another integral way to bring in new volunteers to the community.
Yeah, we're going to highlight the work of our volunteers across our social channels this month with a game of getting not only new volunteers, but hopefully younger volunteers, younger people who are looking for an opportunity to gain valuable experience, to get in, whether it's not only doing our response effort, but we have volunteers who are helping with social media, helping with videos, helping as volunteer spokespeople across the state. So there's plenty of opportunities if you're interested, and you can do that at redcross.org.
All right. I've been speaking with Jonathan McNamara, Director of Donor and Media Relations for the Virginia Red Cross. Thanks again so much for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me.
A local show choir is ready to sing and dance their way to the top. Clover Hill High School's co-ed show choir New Dimensions is only weeks away from its national competition in Tennessee. It's been 2 years since they've competed at nationals, and they'll be competing against choirs from all over the country for top honors. As the date gets closer, students say they're getting more and more excited and nervous. With renditions of songs from The Sound of Music, they're hoping to get the win. Nationals will be held on March 27th at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville.
You may see some work from VCU students as they rebrand campaigns from local nonprofit organizations. Create-a-thon at VCU, a volunteer program created in 2008, gave students and volunteers a chance to help these nonprofits for free. Selected students worked together to redesign some of the organization's brands. The event lasts for 24 hours and this year helped organizations like Dogtown Dance Theater, Sacred Heart Center, and 8 others. For the first time during the event, interviews with nonprofit leaders and team members were broadcast live on live stream.
Virginia Museum of Fine Arts and VCU Arts came together with their own version of the show Shark Tank, a competition that gives students the opportunity to turn their art into a profitable product. From freshmen to graduate students, the winner of this contest will be given an opportunity that many art students could only dream of. InSight's Sierra Wega has more on the story.
30 eager and excited students pitched creative ideas such as fans, masks, and pictures before a panel of 3 judges in a competition the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts put on for VCU art students. For sophomore Angelique Scott, winning is much more than a hope, it's her mindset.
I would be ecstatic. Like, I'd probably cry when they tell me. I'm really hopeful, so I'm not going to say if, hopefully.
The VMFA's Michael Gagardo says it all started with a tour of the museum.
What we required them to do is basically come visit VMFA. If you're interested, come and find what area of the museum or a specific piece that would influence or inspire you to create a product.
The winners will have their final products on display here at the VMFA shop where customers will be able to buy them.
Winners will receive a percentage of the money that the gift shop makes off their products. Gugardo hopes that through this contest, students will learn the business side of making art.
And that's really the goal here, is for them to realize that, you know, you can be a great artist and spend a lot of time, you know, fine-tuning and honing your craft. But when you get out into the real world, you're really going to have to know about marketing your product.
For Scott, art is a passion, but she's learning that it can be more.
Art is like in me. Like, everyone has their thing that clicks for them. Like, some people have engineering, some people have science, some people have nursing, while I have art.
Scott's hopes may mean a business deal for her too. For VCU InSight, I'm Sierra Wega.
VCU will give a grant to the students to help manufacture their ideas into products.
A new interactive exhibit on the Richmond slave trade gets people talking. The Library of Virginia is hosting an exhibit where people can learn about the slave trade and its history here. In Richmond, to be sold, Virginia and the American slave trade displayed reserved artifacts like an auction ledger, a whip used on slaves, and historic artwork created by Irie Crow, a British artist who witnessed the slave trade in the 1850s. Visitors are able to interact by choosing historical videos to watch. The exhibit will stay on display until the end of May.
And finally tonight, we have all heard about the growing craft beer scene here in Richmond.
A new sweet trend is under development with the introduction of the city's first craft mead. InSight's Evan Ratner has more.
It was a big day for owner Bill Cavender in early March. The grand opening of Blackheath Meadery. Breweries make beer, meaderies make mead, a fermented honey drink.
I got into this business to provide an alternative alcoholic beverage for people. I think a lot of my customers are going to be craft beer consumers as well.
Consumers, thousands of years ago, couldn't drink enough mead, and now is making a comeback. The American Mead Makers Association says that mead production has skyrocketed 130% since 2011. Virginia state law prohibits commercial markets like Blackheath Meadery to sell glasses of their mead at their location, but you can come by and get a bottle. The journey to open the meadery started back in 2013 when Cavender and his wife created a Kickstarter project called RVA Mead Lab. Cavender is encouraged by the positive feedback he receives.
I've had great conversations with some local brewers about doing some collaborations.
Richmond locals have quickly become fond of the introduction of this new beverage.
I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's a great thing to try if you've never had mead.
And Cavender weaves a good tale about legends surrounding mead. Supposedly, the first humans found it looking for water.
They pull out this magical elixir, which when they drink, they become intoxicated.
That ancient elixir just hit Richmond. For VCU InSight, I'm Evan Ratner.
Blackheath Meadery is currently trying to get a distribution license, hoping to soon put their honey wine on tap in local restaurants.
Isn't that the drink of choice in Beowulf?
I do believe they drank that in Beowulf. I remember learning about it in when I read Beowulf in high school, but I didn't know what mead was, so I still don't know too much about it.
Anything that Angelina Jolie drinks, I'll drink.
And that's it for this edition of VCU InSight.
Make sure to check us out online at insight.vcu.edu.
You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under VCU InSight. Contact us with any stories you'd like to see on our show.
And if you missed it or you'd like to watch past shows, we're on YouTube under VCU InSight. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jacqueline Causey.
And I'm Derek Marion. We'll see you next time.